So let's get started. First, what we will do is that we will create the folder. So here we will call it Python Flask server starter, and then here we will create app.py. Okay, so just before we start, let's see which version of Python I have. So I have 3.7 Python here. Okay, so I could use it in my project, and then I will use PyCharm to open this particular folder, Python starter. Here we have, and the project we have created, Python file Flask server starter, is loaded here. Here you could see we also have the terminal which opens it in same area. So if you do not have PyCharm, you can get the community version, which is freely available, and it's a good editor for Python. So here we can also do the same thing. We have Python 3.7 available for us. So here is our app.py. So what we will do, we will do the from Flask, sorry, import, I'm sorry, import Flask. Okay, and then we will define, we need to say app equals Flask, and we will say, okay, let's go ahead and define it, and then we can say app.run, and we can actually set up host here. So every server has some hosts, so we can say run the local, so 0.0.0.0.0. Then we can say, okay, if we want to run on which port, so we could say let's run on port 3003. Okay, we have very simple code. We have a starter, okay, and two lines, okay. Now if you look into here, we have app.py. Let's see what happens. Python app.py. You see, you have, at least in this scenario, your server is started at this point. So let's see what happens if we go to 3003. We go to local host 3, and you will see that at least something happened, because it server was active, this port, so there was some service was running, but besides that there was nothing here. So you could see that request was made to the server, because we have no pages, nothing is really added, no content, it's just a server is running right now. So at least it shows that our code, our starter code really implemented correctly. Okay, now we really need to set up some kind of API infrastructure top of it. So let's get the API connected. So we can say, okay, API, we need API, and API is API, okay, and it is basically the app. Okay, now we see the API is not really defined yet, so we can say from Flask Restful, we are saying, can we import the API? Okay, and not only that, we also need to import the resources, because when we are defining the API, we need to define the resources. So what we will do, we can say resources. Okay, let's have this thing. So now our API is defined. Now we could say here that API.add, you could see add resource, and we can define a function which we could say that we could be really using within the resources. So here we can say, okay, let's define a class, and which is the root API, and it's really using the resources. Okay, sorry, resource. Once we have defined here, now you could see that within the API add resource here, we could actually go ahead and we can implement it. Okay, so we can say, yes, this is the resource we are really trying to use with a particular URL which is route within the server. So let's say hello. Okay, so this is the add is really API resources added for this class. Now we need to define, so we can say define, and we can say go ahead, okay, let's use the get, which is the self, and here we can say return result status is success. There you go. So now you could see that we have defined our route within the server, and when that route is called for the get request, it is going to return some result. So okay, let's see what happens here. We can come back our v1 hello, and let's see, we have v1 hello. Now because we really need to make sure that we have reloaded it, so just to make sure, we'll stop it. Okay, root API and 3003 is loaded hello. There you go. So that really proves that a get request was made from the browser, server handled it, went to root API, a function which was the resource added here as a API, and it requests came back. In order to test this very quickly, we can look into the our debug window in the browser, and we can say, okay, let's make the call. This is the hello call, request went, and here you could see, and here is a response came back, result success. So we have seen that a very good quick test, and that went very well. Now we can say, okay, let's implement the post request same way. We can say div post self, okay, and now we really need to parse the post request. So we could say parser is equal to now you see here that we really have to parse response. So we need some kind of a request parser, so which we haven't added here. We can say request parser, okay, and then we will call the request parser here, which is request parser, and then we can say can we pass the request. So request parser, here we can say parser dot add argument. So what add argument is that when the post request will come, whatever the argument is really going to be set, we will get that value out of here. So we can say server is going to send a request type here to us, and we will take that request and we will try to type of it will be a string. Okay, now we can say arguments which equals our parser dot parse arguments. So what these three lines are, that all the request which is coming out from browser to the server, we are going to parse the package which is our body, and then look into what the request, if there is a request type parameter is, and that we are really going to look into. And then if we need to return that message, we can really do various functionality here. But just to get things going, what we could say, we can say, okay, final result equals, we can say status success and return final result. So let's see what happens, because this way our post, and now we have to test this thing little differently. Either we could use the postman, or because the browser right now is just making the get request, so if we need to do the post request, we might need a postman, or we could use the curl. So command line, you could see here that I have curl already available tool for me, so I can make a curl call here. So if you do not know about curl, go ahead and learn in the internet. So curl is a command where we can say curl, and then we can say, okay, we need to get either get or post. So remember, we talked about get before. So what we are saying, let's go to get, and which port, localhost 3003, then we will v1 hello. So that's, I'm just trying to test the previous one, and let's look into there. Request came back, perfect. So it means curl. Now we need to the post, so we will say go ahead and post, okay, and then we really need to pass the our body. So we say, can you pass the data? And within the data, what we really have is that we are trying to pass, remember we talk about request type hello, and it is this. This is request type. Let's run here. This method is not allowed for this URL. It means, let's see if anything is missing here. Data. Okay, now because this is a JSON type, so what we could do is that let's add the JSON type header here. So we could say please add the header which are content. They are as a content dash type. Yeah, content type, and what we are saying, application and JSON. Okay, let's see. This method is not allowed for the request to the URL, so curl. So we are making a post call to here, and let's see. Okay, request. Oh, sorry, we have just added here. So what we'll do, we will restart it because, okay, let's see, server is ready. There you go. Here, message we have, which will be, we can say request type is message, where because we just have only one variables, we can say format or arguments. This is argument. There could be more than one, so we could use this array, and we can say this is a request type, and here we have request type message. Now let's restart this. Okay, and then we can, once this thing is running, let's come back here, let's run. So here you could see that we are passing request type, and the result is coming back, and it say result type request type is none, even when we are passing hello. So the possibility, what you could see here is that the parsing is not correct because we are sending JSON. So just to make sure that we are passing it correctly, we can pass the header, which are header. We need to pass the header. They will be content type, and they will be, or should be, application JSON. Okay, let's pass header. Now you can see that hello, we send hello, and hello came back, and everything is correct. So that's pretty much what we really wanted to try very quickly. Now if you want to add one more resource, for example, so we can say we have hello, another resource called buy, and now we can implement that particular resource and somewhere in proper folder as a package. So we can say let's have folder called core. Here we can create file called API handler. So here we have, oh sorry, API handler.py. Okay, so that's our API handler now. Now within the API handler, we need exactly same thing. So we need because API resources, so we need this. Okay, and then again something similar. So just to make sure that we have capability, so we can say, okay, we can say API handler, we have function. Okay, resources are there. Okay, and here we have get post. The plan, what we really have is that we can collect the parameters, and then we can let them process in a validator, and then we can generate the result. So we can call another file call validator, and within the validator we can define validate parameters, and here we could say that pass the parameters, we will process them. So that will be our parameters. So we can say, okay, it's going to result return result status, which we define as a result message, return status message. So that's our result. So these two parameters will be returned here in this function, so we will call them here equals, and we can say from core dot validator import. Here we get validate parameters, and we are passing here arguments. So we have we can figure it out what arguments we really have. So we have request type, and let's add an arguments which is request JSON, and which is type of string 2, and these two request type and JSON. So we have this, and then we can say the request type and request JSON. So we could say request type, which is argument of request type, and this is JSON. Request type, request JSON, and these two parameters will be here, and then some validation logic can be used here to check if those parameters are what we are expecting. They will be processed here, and based on that result JSON, we could actually say that here the result type is this, and result JSON result message. So we have result message as a one parameter, and this should be result status. So result status here, and then what we needed is here is that from core dot API handler, what we are importing API handler function, and API handler function will be here. Hopefully that clarifies what we are really trying to do, and let's restart it. So we will see by request will come here, it will go to API handler function. If it is a guest, we can also say message hello from API handler function, and we can also make it a little more clear is here more. And if it is a post, it will expect for these two parameters. So we need to have request type and request JSON, and once we have request JSON, we can actually validate parameter. We could say if request JSON, and if we find request JSON, then we could say request message should be JSON received is the request JSON, and result status should be true. That's, and we are really not looking at that. Now let's give it a try. So JSON received here. Let's see what happens. We are here, and let's change to parsing by. Let me check how we have typed sys by. Okay, post. So here you could see that request status is false and result message, because we have request type but we are not passing the request JSON which is required by validator. So let's add the request JSON here. Okay, so we already had here. Now request JSON is, we need to pass the JSON, and that should be, just for clarity, JSON will go inside this parameter, and then we need to pass the value and parameter. So we can call param is value, and everything is correct. So here you could see request JSON, request JSON is a param value. Okay, and result message is still, hopefully we are doing correctly. Okay, value header. Okay, and status. Okay, let's give one more try. Validate parameters. Request type request JSON, which is request JSON, and post by. There you go. So it's a JSON received, parameter, and value. That's how we really got everything back. I hope you liked it. Thank you. Bye.